Mark Carney has won the race to succeed Justin Trudeau as Canada's Prime Minister, and in his victory speech attacks Trump over tariffs and says Americans should make no mistake. In trade as in hockey, Canada will win. Good evening, you're watching Profit 360 on NDTV Profit and I'm Sanjana. Along the next half an hour, we're going to bring you the latest, not just on markets, but as well as international and national news. And on to our big story of the hour. In a significant move, the Maharashtra's coalition government, in its first budget since coming to power, has proposed key changes to the motor vehicle tax. A 1% increase has been announced for CNG four-wheelers, while EVs priced above 30 lakh rupees will now be taxed at 6%. These changes are expected to generate 150 crore rupees in revenue for the state in the next year. My colleague and auto sector expert Tushar are joining us to break down the impact of this new tax and which players, Tushar, will be the most affected by this.
Good evening, Sanjana. So the Maharashtra government has announced a 1% hike in CNG car prices, for the road tax on CNG cars, which means that CNG cars priced above 20 lakh rupees, which were taxed at 9%, will now be taxed at 10%. CNG cars priced between 10 lakhs and 20 lakhs, which were taxed at 8%, will now be taxed at 9%. CNG cars priced less than 10 lakh rupees will be taxed at 8%, against 7% earlier. Remember, electric cars, all of them were so far exempt from any tax, road tax under the Maharashtra EV policy that was introduced in 2021. Now, electric cars priced above 30 lakhs will attract about 6% road tax, but below that, there'll be no tax as such as per the EV policy. Now, the companies will be impacted will be for CNG, Maruti Suzuki, Hyundai, as well as Tata Motors, the mass market players. For electric cars priced above 30 lakh rupees, it will impact the Germans, BMW, Audi and Mercedes, as well as BYD, and it will isolate Tata Motors and Mahindra as of now.
Understood. So, Tushar, what are the potential effects of this tax revision on the overall cost of vehicle ownership, if we're talking about for consumers and vehicle owners or potential vehicle owners in Maharashtra, and how might this now influence purchasing decisions in the state?
See, while the price hike may not be a lot, it's just 1% across the board for CNG cars, but it serves as a dent to car buying sentiment, especially when we are seeing a downturn in car sales in the last couple of months. So while, yes, the price increase may not be materially high, but it does serve as a, like a sentiment downer for prospective buyers who are looking at the CNG space.
Absolutely, Tushar. Thank you so much for that crucial update coming in as the Maharashtra budget was presented. And the state budget, like we rightly said, also marks Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar's 11th budget as the Finance Minister of Maharashtra. According to the pre-budget economic survey, the state's economy is expected to grow at 7.3% as per the advanced estimate of 24-25, which is higher than the country's projected growth rate at 6.5%. Now, during the presentation, Ajit Pawar even said that the Mumbai metropolitan region will alone build an economy worth $1.5 trillion by 2047. He's announced many other important objectives for the state too, but I have my colleague Agni Dev now joining in from the ground to give us some of the key takeaways. Agni, some exciting updates coming in, lots of key takeaways, a plan for another airport. Take us through all of it.
Right, so I am here outside the Vidhan Bhavan of the Maharashtra Assembly, and there's quite a handful of a lot of interesting updates that have been announced by Ajit Pawar. Allow me a moment to take you through all of them. So the most important one right now we have is a third airport that has been announced for the Mumbai region. Now this airport has been announced as part of the Vadhavan Group project, which the port itself is expected to be operationalized by 2030 is what Ajit Pawar has said. So Other important features of these ports and airport set of announcements is that the Mumbai-Ahmedabad bullet train will also have a station at the Vadhavan port, and the maximum duration for port agreements has now been increased to 90 years. This is what Ajit Pawar said in his budget speech. So other few interesting things that he said about airports is that the Shirdi airport, which currently does not have a night landing facility, is now going to have a night landing facility soon. Domestic airports from the Navi Mumbai International Airport, which is the second airport of the Mumbai region, are expected to start from April. And he also said that metros will start running between the Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj Airport in Mumbai and the Navi Mumbai International Airport, adding to an ease of convenience for the travelers in the Mumbai area. Now, other than this Mumbai specific, Pawar also had a few interesting options and decisions to announce. He said that there will be infra projects worth thousands of crores, and he said that Mumbai will obviously emerge as a major growth center for the country. He said that 7 commercial hubs will be developed in Mumbai. These will be at BKC, Worli, Wadala, Goregaon, Kharghar, Virar and Boisar. Now moving on, he also had an announcement about artificial intelligence, where he said that Maharashtra will promote artificial intelligence in agriculture, and the pilot project will be launched over 1 lakh hectares of land with 50,000 farmers. Water from the Konkan area will also be diverted to drought-prone regions in Marathwada, is what Ajit Pawar has said. Over 19,000 crore rupees of irrigation projects have been implemented in the Tapi River Valley. Maharashtra government has also said that there are 36,000 crore of provisioning made for the Ladki Behan scheme. Other than that, agriculture department outlay worth over 9,000 crore. Then there's the industrial policy that will be out soon, which will create jobs, over 50 lakh jobs, and see investments worth over rupees 40 lakh crore in the next 5 years were also announced. Now, other than this, a few other things that Ajit Pawar has announced are the Marathi Bhasha Samman Din that will be celebrated on October 3rd of every year.
Okay.
The Maharashtra government will be coming out with new labor laws. There have been MOUs signed with 56 companies at Davos at the World Economic Forum. And lastly, a Shivaji Maharaj Memorial in Agra, where the emperor was held, which is in coordination with the UP government. So these are the updates from my end. I obviously could not cover all of them for you, but stay tuned and keep watching NDTV Profit for further updates.
Thanks, Agni, for giving us the key takeaways. And right, you were right. Lots of significant takeaways from that. Lots of announcements being made, but we'll get to that shortly. And that's right. So stay tuned for it. But let's now take a look at what's happening in the market, or what rather happened. It wasn't a good start to the week. Nifty and Sensex ended the session lower, and broader markets underperformed the benchmarks. All sectoral indices, barring FMCG, ended with cuts, with Realty Index cracking the most, followed by PSU, banks and auto. Harsh joining us now to give us a quick wrap of all of the action.
Well, in fact, the market breadth was really where all of the pressure came in, but we've closed lower now for the first time in 4 sessions. Whether that's heartening or not, I'm not so sure, because let's look at the Nifty 50 intraday. We've done very well pretty much for most part of the day, after which we've just fallen off a cliff, and we've closed around 100 odd points lower from that point at roughly 2:10 p.m.-ish. From the day's high, of course, we've fallen nearly 200 points plus. So from 22,676, we've fallen to 22,460 and closed thereabouts. But if you look at the Nifty 50 constituents, and that's where you'll see a snapshot of the breadth, it's an extremely weak breadth that you're seeing. Very few stocks being or sitting in the green at close. Power Grid was the one that really stood out with a 3%, and then you had some names within FMCG and HUL and ITC kind of aiding the index a little bit. But you look at the overall texture, it was negative. Trent on the back of an adverse note, IndusInd on the back of leadership, and RBI, RBI's stake sitting around 4% or thereabouts lower. So that's largely the texture. And very similar is what you'll see with regard to sectors. Let's pull those up. And when you're looking at the sectors, you'll see that only the FMCG index largely insulated, but outside of that, there was pressure all over. You're looking at the Nifty IT onwards, everything underperforming the benchmark itself. The Nifty Pharma was down 0.6, the Nifty Realty down over 2%, was the one that really stood out. PSU banks were under pressure, Nifty Auto was down 1.3 as well. So roughly that was the texture overall. Let's also look at the mid cap and small cap, and let's look at the breadth before that, intraday. The breadth as the day progressed just got weaker and weaker, and that also is signified by this graph. Just look at the way the breadth has weakened. Lastly, let's look at the mid cap and small cap indices, how they've closed. And intraday, when we're looking at it, very similar kind of weakness creeping in to the Nifty small cap down nearly 2%, the Nifty mid cap also 1.5%, wiping off some of the gains made during last week. So that's how it was. At least that's how the Monday has been. Not a good one, but it's a truncated week. It's going to be an interesting one, how we go through the next 3 trading sessions.
Thanks, Harsh, for giving us those updates. And on to an NDTV Profit exclusive now. Sharan Hegde, founder and CEO of the 1% Club, shares his perspective on investing during market corrections. He emphasizes that long-term investors still see green portfolios, noting that the current market correction doesn't look bad for them. Let's listen into how his insights on how to navigate the market in turbulent times.
Firstly, I would like to say that we are not yet in a bear run. Right, I think we're far from reaching that point. Just to give you some context, in the 80s, the US market went through almost 7 to 8 years of bear run, where the markets didn't really move at all for like almost a decade. Right, for us, it's just been a couple of months. So I think, firstly, we need to calm down. Right, it's not like the end of the world, like what people are saying. And secondly, you're right. Most of the people in India, or at least on social media, most of them have invested just in the last 1 or 2 years. I personally have been investing for the last 10 years. So when people are saying markets are bleeding, their portfolio is red, but for somebody who has been investing for almost a decade, their portfolios are still green, right? So the moral of the story is, if you've been a long-term investor, then this sort of a market correction is not really looking bad on your portfolio. But if you're somebody who's just been investing 1 or 2 years, then yes, you're seeing your portfolio in the red. And this is exactly where investor behavior comes into the picture. Some of the greatest investors in the world said that, investing is much more about your psychology than about the numbers. So at this important juncture, what people do with their money is really, really important, because you're not just using logic to make a decision. There's a lot of emotional triggers which is, affecting your decision-making process. And what I personally follow is a proper diversification across asset classes. Although equity is my favorite asset class, almost 50% of my money is in the Indian markets and another 15-20% is in the US market. I'm well diversified across gold, crypto, real estate, bonds, private investment. So I have a portfolio which is well diversified. So even if half of my portfolio is not doing that well this year, I know that my other asset classes are really performing well. So only when you have that diversified approach, you have that peace of mind. But if you are sort of somebody who is after that quick money-making strategy where you're like, okay, I saw that the Indian market is performing well, so I'll put all my money in the Indian markets, then you might be in trouble right now.
And today the rupee closed at its lower level since March 4th, falling 45 paise in intraday trade to 87.33 against the dollar. The rupee weakened as the dollar index improved marginally from its 4-month low. Investors were also affected by a broader risk-off sentiment as fears of tariffs from the US reappeared. US President Donald Trump described the economy as in a period of transition amid escalating trade tensions following the new US tariffs on Mexico, Canada and China. Now this while the US economy added weaker than expected 1,51,000 jobs in February. The next major data points to watch out for would be the inflation prints from the US and India due this week. Now, for the last week, Gensol Engineering has been in focus with its stock plummeting nearly 40% in just 5 days and over 56% in a month. The sharp decline comes as the company grapples with a growing debt crisis, which has put immense pressure on its promoters. Adding to investor concerns, promoters have recently pledged their shares, further driving the stock down and shaking market confidence. The situation worsened after rating agency CareEdge downgraded Gensol's long and short-term bank facilities to the lowest rating on its scale, reserved for issuers in default or expected to default. Now, this downgrade has only intensified the financial strain on the company and obviously fueled more uncertainty among investors. To address the key questions from investors and shareholders amid this freefall, my colleagues Sajit and Vishwanath now joining us.
The first of which is where exactly did this 250 crore of free cash that they talked about, where did that cash exactly go? The second important question is why did the promoters not convert the warrants earlier? Why are they talking about it now, considering that they did that open market purchase of shares in September and October of 2024? Another question is what exactly prompted, if you see the next question, what exactly prompted the company to not actually take action on the allegations by ICRA? The allegations were of falsifying documents. So why exactly has the company not yet appointed a committee, which was something that they said that they would do, and why names have not yet been announced? Very important question again, if you think that that's such an important allegation to address. How the hell are they actually going to fund that 7,000 crore worth of order execution, right? How is that money coming in? Because debt at this point in time is going to be very challenging. With a default rating, you can't really go to any lender. And even if you go to private credit, again, you've got that issue of excessive promoter pledging that has happened. And the last question that we need to definitely see is whether the market regulator is currently watching the company closely and whether any questions have been raised by SEBI with the way the disclosures have come out and with the way the claims are consistently being proven wrong from Gensol Engineering.
Now, Air India has made two U-turns. One because of a potential security threat and the other because of clogged toilets. On Thursday, a Delhi-bound flight from the United States, Chicago, circled back after around 10 hours in the air after most of the toilets on the flight were clogged and inoperable. Precisely 11 out of the 12 toilets on board were unusable, with 300 passengers on board. A spokesperson from the airline said that full refunds on cancellation and complimentary rescheduling are also being offered to passengers if opted by them. The other incident, meanwhile, involved a New York-bound flight from Mumbai today. The aircraft was forced to return mid-air after a note threatening a blast was discovered in the washroom of the aircraft. The flight then proceeded to follow standard security protocols and landed safely at the Mumbai International Airport this morning. Upon landing, security agencies initiated mandatory checks on the aircraft, and the flight has now been rescheduled to depart at 5 a.m. tomorrow. That's March the 11th. And just like booking a cab or ordering your lunch, you can now book ambulances online. Zenzo is all set to revolutionize emergency medical services with a massive network of 25,000 ambulances operating much like cab aggregators. This innovative fleet includes some 5G-enabled ambulances aiming to integrate all vehicles onto a 5G platform for enhanced connectivity and efficiency. The network offers both basic and advanced cardiac ambulances, ensuring that medical assistance is just a call away regardless of the situation. Zenzo's platform aims to provide emergency services within 15 minutes. And to prevent overcharging during emergencies, Zenzo has even implemented a fixed pricing model for these services with no surge prices, ensuring fair and transparent costs for all users. My colleague Charu spoke to Shweta Mangal, co-founder and CEO at Zenzo, about how the company is poised to make a significant impact in emergency medical services. Let's listen in.
We've been running ambulances in India for the last 20 years, largely with the government. We run the 108 ambulance service. Of late, what we have seen is a lot of e-com player or cab aggregators. They have started services and they're delivering everything in less than 10 minutes. And after the pandemic, what we saw is a huge rise in the demand for ambulance services. But people still are confused on what number to call and what to do in an emergency, because emergency is an event which does not happen often. It happens probably once in a lifetime. And when that event occurs, people don't know what to do. And as co-founders of Zenzo, our aim is to make sure that one, people remember the number to call when they need an ambulance. Number two is to make sure the ambulance reaches them in less than 15 minutes. And third is to train people across India on first aid and CPR so that even while the ambulance is on the way, immediate medical help can be delivered to the patient.
Ma'am, talking about the logistics of this initiative, how many people are you, bringing together? How many people you are employing or getting on the platform? How is that working out?
So, as a company, we have 12,000 employees in the company. So, we run 4,000 ambulances for the government. Now, for this initiative, we have aggregated partners. So, we have 25,000 individual ambulance owners who have come on the platform. We also have few of our own ambulances because we also want to showcase the latest technology on ambulances. So we have 5G enabled ambulances which we run on our own. But our initiative is that we want to encourage all the players to slowly come onto the 5G platform as well. So currently we have aggregated individual ambulance owners on the platform.
And will there be other staff members present inside the ambulances apart from the aggregated drivers or the ambulance owners?
So in an ambulance, typically the ambulance are of two types. One is a basic ambulance, one is a cardiac ambulance. In a basic ambulance, you'll usually find a driver and a paramedic, and in a cardiac ambulance you'll find a driver, paramedic and a helper. So when we say ambulance providers, they usually have this team. So what we do is ensure that the team is trained. So when we say we've created this network of 25,000 ambulances, we've ensured that they are validated and they are trained people.
And what is this partnership with Zomato bringing on board?
So like I told you, our initiative is to make India emergency ready. Emergency ready means two main things. One is to have the service available to you in less than 15 minutes, and second is to train normal people on first aid CPR. So when they are faced with an emergency, they can deliver that help. So what we have done is we are now tied up with Zomato and with other e-com players and mobility players to train their drivers and riders on first aid and CPR. So Zomato is the first partnership we've done for training. We have trained their riders on first aid and CPR, and I'm happy to share with you that just after the training, the rider has been able to save a life on the street. And like that, we are doing several other partnerships which are underway. I cannot name them. So the idea is all these people, which is delivery boy or a driver, which are now all over India, if we can train them to be first responders, so while the ambulance is on the way, they can start providing the first aid.
And in a fresh setback for IPL founder Lalit Modi, the Vanuatu government has decided to cancel his passport, stating that escaping extradition is not a valid reason for citizenship. Lalit Modi wanted in India for alleged financial irregularities during his tenure as IPL commissioner, had earlier applied to surrender his Indian passport at the country's High Commission in London. But Vanuatu's Prime Minister Jotham Napat directed the Citizenship Commission to revoke Lalit Modi's passport, citing recent international media reports. He stressed that citizenship is a privilege and not a right and must be obtained only for legitimate purposes. And that's all the time we had on this edition of Profit 360. Stay tuned to NDTV Profit for more news and updates.
Very warm welcome to you all for this NDTV Profit conclave, which is themed on Viksit Bharat.
A life which is both taking care of your material needs and taking care of your altruistic needs. That will be the true definition of Viksit Bharat.
In my view, we are already out of that slowdown.
For every unloam, you have to have vilom. You can't just keep doing up and up in the breathing also. You have to come down. So the correction and healthy correction is a very, very integral part of the market.
The private capital expenditure, from where I sit, I see that private capital expenditure is happening.
Any tariff coming on Indian goods will be passed on to American consumers and Indian companies will not be affected.
We feel fairly good about the fact that we can compete with various folks.
Actually, instead of Viksit Bharat, we should call it Viksit Bharat.
Headlines you start your day with. What matters worldwide is now in the palm of your hands. Get ready to seize the day and maximize your financial potential. Stay ahead of the curve with all you need to know on NDTV Profit.
Very warm welcome to you all for this NDTV Profit conclave, which is themed on Viksit Bharat.
A life which is both taking care of your material needs and taking care of your altruistic needs. That will be the true definition of Viksit Bharat.
In my view, we are already out of that slowdown.
For every anlom, you have to have vilom. You can't just keep doing up and up in the breathing also. You have to come down. So the correction and healthy correction is a very, very integral part of the market.
The private capital expenditure, from where I sit, I see that private capital expenditure is happening.
Any tariff coming on Indian goods will be passed on to American consumers and Indian companies will not be affected.
We feel fairly good about the fact that we can compete with various folks.
Actually, instead of Viksit Bharat, we should call it Viksit Bharat.
Hello and welcome. Well, for those who are unfamiliar, KYC is a show designed to give regular investors powerful, actionable insights into the fundamentals of a single NSE-listed company every day. And as I've mentioned, this is the second KYC we are doing. The second KYC is going to be on Gensol Engineering. Now, we have been talking about Gensol Engineering quite a bit through the course of the day. So let's start by taking a look at all the highlights around which